BMP-2 is a light tank with unusual cannon. The caliber is very small and that reflects on vehicle's ability to penetrate armor. So at first I was very skeptic about its ability to deal with opponents' ground units. And in many cases low penetration will be an issue, but the more I played BMP-2, the more confident I felt. Because despite this drawback, there are many useful things you get in return. The main gun will be the default choice for the majority of situations. Unlike usual vehicles at this tier, BMP-2 main cannon has caliber of only 30mm. Because of that, default armor-piercing shells can penetrate maximum of 64mm, which is so small that can be compared to anti-aircraft guns, which are not even designed to destroy tanks. Additionally, damage of such small projectiles is also small, and they don't explode after penetration. That is compensated by rate of fire of 550 shells per second, which is also comparable to SPAA guns. So why do you have to fight tanks with something so similar to SPAAs? There are two things that help to fix poor situation with main gun. First of all, and most importantly, at battle ratings 8.0 and above, you will rarely see heavily armored tank. Majority of them has little amount of armor, and even when they do, all of it is focused in front, leaving sides vulnerable. The second thing is high velocity armor piercing shells that should be researched as soon as possible. Those can reach up to 100mm of penetration, which is still very small, but that will make your life significantly easier by allowing you to penetrate many tanks frontally if you aim at weak spots, which are usually turret rings. Though HVAP shells are limited by quantity, you can take only one belt of such ammunition into battle. This belt will contain 160 shots. In addition, one more belt of any other type can be taken. Using belts means that there are no danger to be caught between reloads. Meanwhile, usual tanks are defenseless for the duration of reload. When you and opponent notice each other at the same time, that allows you to start shooting first and then move the crosshair towards opponent, while he will need to be sure that you are in his crosshairs before firing. It makes it even more difficult for them if you are constantly moving. If opponent misses, he is doomed, while for you it is not important to hit with every shell. And considering that BMP-2 is equipped with stabilizer, you shouldn't miss many shots anyway, even when shooting on the move. HVAP belt should allow you to deal with most of opponents, though you will run out of ammunition quite often. So when facing a heavier opponent, instead of spraying main gun projectiles, it might make more sense to shoot rockets, which are similar to what BMP-1 uses. Rockets are also a more reliable option for distant targets, since small projectiles will lose a lot of already poor penetration over distance, becoming almost useless at ranges of kilometer and above. Also, rockets are the best way tanks have to deal with helicopters. As mentioned before, main cannon of BMP-2 is similar to anti-aircraft vehicles, and since you can take only one belt of HVAP projectiles, it makes sense to take second belt filled mostly with high explosive shells to fight air targets. It only takes 1 second to reload when switching between different belts, so you can quickly adapt to changing situation. Though don't get excited too much when shooting planes. Even if you have better means to deal with them than other tanks, SPAAs will do it significantly better thanks to the radars that they get at these battle ratings. But still, ability to take down planes is very useful for BMP-2 because it is a magnet for any plane, as the tank has almost no protection. BMP-2 hull is very similar to its predecessor BMP-1, which review can be found in top right corner. Just this time there are even thinner armor plates. 15 to 20mm plates won't even protect from high caliber machine guns, No surprise that something with such armor is also hull breakable, so any heat or high explosive projectile, just like an artillery strike, are likely to destroy your BMP-2 in a single hit. And even if there was no hull break, you will be one-shotted if opponent's shell will knock out 2 out of its 3 comrades. It is possible to put additional armor plates by researching additional armor modification. That will add 6mm plates on vehicle sides and behind the turret. That will also increase tank's weight by 800 kg and remove the ability to swim. Unfortunately, these plates will not offer noticeable protection, so by not using the modification, you will keep slightly more maneuverability, which is almost identical to BMP-1. Maximum speed is 65 kph, but in practice you can reach slightly above 40 unless moving down the hill. Backwards, vehicle can reach 10 kph. Both of these speeds are comfortable to play, but it's not much faster than everyone else, even if BMP-2 is classified as a light tank. That is because of the same reason that makes your 30mm cannon usable against tanks. Most vehicles at these battle ratings simply don't have that much armor, which of course increases their maneuverability. Turret rotation can reach up to 30 degrees per second if your crew is aced. That is good, it's above average, but not very impressive if you compare them with similar light tanks of other nations like Bradley or Warrior, who can spin their turrets almost like SPAAs. But instead, BMP-2 has another feature that outperforms the rest of light tanks. Its cannon can go all the way up until it reaches 74 degrees of elevation. That leaves only a very small dead zone right above the tank. So in vast majority of cases you will be able to shoot down any pilot who decides to attack you. If small caliber cannon is an unusual thing for Soviets, Guns Depression will remind you what nation you are playing. -5 degrees. That is not enough to hide your hull behind hills, so be ready for risky gameplay. Just like additional armor, there are 3 more modifications with limited usefulness I have to mention. First of them, 2 launchers of smoke grenades. That will put a smoke screen slightly in front of BMP-2. The problem is, most of the time you don't even think about smoke screen until you get hit and want to disengage for repairs. Since BMP-2 gets one-shotted so often, you rarely end up in a situation where smoke is still useful. Another such modification is engine smoke system, which is even less useful since it's very situational. And the list of upgrades you will probably never use finishes with image intensifier in case you are fighting at night. But out of all my battles, there were very few matches at night, and even then it barely helps. In arcade, light tanks suffer, and BMP-2 is not an exception. Actually, because opponents will become aware of you sooner, engagements will happen at greater distances, and the greater the distance, the less penetration your low penetrating shells have. Additionally, arcade mode is more attractive for more armored tanks. There certainly will be problems when engaging distant targets, though if you can get close enough, which mostly possible when fighting in cities, you should be able to find weak spots even in heavy tanks with the help of penetration indicator. Or when opponents are very tough, rockets will always save the day. But on the other hand, planes become much easier to hit because of leading indicator. Since air targets last only 1 minute, they don't care that you can be pretty good at killing them. But they do care about your classification light tank, which is visible few kilometers away for all the planes who started air event. So expect to be attacked by fighters throughout the match. That in turn will usually result in few easy air kills for you. So despite all types of vehicles will be a threat for BMP-2, your weaponry allows you to effectively deal with them as well. In general, BMP-2 left good impressions. Despite small penetration, which was my biggest concern, It is always possible to find a weak spot in enemy's armor. Even if you are not sure what to do, spam shells around opponent's tank, and few of them will find a way inside. In worst case scenario, you can quickly break gun and tracks to safely approach crippled opponent's side to finish it. I would rate the vehicle 6 shell casings out of 10. The worst thing was that you never know when you are going to be destroyed. Any hit can hull break the tank, and first shells of artillery strikes can destroy you before you even have enough time to leave that area. Meanwhile, small penetration forces you to be as close as possible to opponents. So gameplay is risky, but thanks to ability to fight both air and ground targets, you will always have something to attack. So despite it's risky, it's also full of action.